Welcome. My name is Steve here from SCW. I'm joined with George Jones, and we're going to be discussing the WWE Superstar Shakeup. It's been a big week of movers on both Raw and SmackDown. Plenty of movement, which we're going to be discussing over the next hour or so. We're going to be discussing the idea of the moves. Have they been positive? Are they going to influence those superstars to better careers over the next 12 months? What about the superstars that haven't moved? Are they going to still benefit from the shake-up? And we're going to see who won, Raw or SmackDown. So there's a lot to discuss. But before we get started, plenty of platforms you could be watching or listening to us on. If you're watching, you can see me and George. We are on youtube.com, SCW The Wrestling Channel. There's plenty of podcast forms you can find us on: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. You can subscribe, you can follow, you can like. As well as that, we are on Facebook and Instagram with SCW The Wrestling Channel. You can like and follow those pages. And it's even a Twitter page, SCW Wrestling Channel. You can follow that as well. A lot of Twitter activity, usually during live WWE events. But before I go any further with any more social media, George, how are you doing? How are you feeling about the Superstar Shakeup?
I'm very well, Steve. It's great to be back on. Thank you for having me join this pivotal week of WWE. But yeah, I'm great. How about yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Yeah, and it's good to have you back on. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had you on the show. We'd really love to get your thoughts on the Superstar Shakeup as an overall package. Do you think that it's been a good thing for WWE TV this week?
I think it freshens up the product to a certain point. It's great to see some moves. I think it will create preliminarily some new feuds, which will be good for us to watch in the coming months. Clearly, the fact that they've had this build after WrestleMania now is just great to see them sort of do something different. It opens up some more doors for some new wrestlers as well. It's great to see some new people on the show as such.
Definitely. I think it's always nice after WrestleMania because the reset button usually gets hit anyway. I mean, I think in old years, when we go back to, like, say, 10 years ago, we would usually see the feuds from WrestleMania carry over for another 4, 5, 6 weeks. So this way we get a full reset button, and it's nice to see that maybe some feuds will sort of still, linger on a little bit, but a big shake up, and there's going to be a lot of fresh TV. And I think you make a great point there with that. And it's very pivotal after WrestleMania that we get this idea of fresh storylines going forward as we head towards the next WrestleMania. So for people that haven't seen WWE TV this week and they want to know the results of the Superstar Shakeup, I'm going to give you every move. So this is the results from the Superstar Shakeup, and afterwards, George and I will be diving in and letting you guys know our thoughts on the Superstar Shakeup. So moving to Monday Night Raw, we've got AJ Styles, which was probably the biggest move to Raw. We've got The Miz, Ricochet, Aleister Black. We've got the tag team, which were the War Raiders, but are now known as the Viking Experience. We're definitely going to be diving into that later. Eric and Ivar are the new names for that tag team as well. We've got Andrade and Zelina Vega. I think it's a big move for Monday Night Raw. Rey Mysterio, the Usos, Naomi, EC3, Lacey Evans, Eric Young, so Sanity is No More. We're going to be touching on that later in this hour as well as Cedric Alexander from 205 Live has been made the jump to the Raw brand. As for SmackDown Live, they have made some moves themselves. Roman Reigns, arguably the biggest move of the whole shakeup, has moved to SmackDown Live. The Intercontinental Champion, Finn Balor, which currently means we've got 2 mid-card titles on the same show. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Elias, arguably, is he the biggest acquisition in SmackDown Live history? We'll be talking more about that later. We've got the women's division heavily strengthened with Bayley, Ember Moon, Kairi Sane, and of course, after SmackDown Live went off the air, there was Liv Morgan and Mickie James also added to the lineup. Lars Sullivan, who's been on both shows, is now a part of SmackDown Live as a permanent fixture. Buddy Murphy moving from 205 Live. Chad Gable, without Bobby Roode, is on SmackDown Live, as well as Apollo Crews. And to finish things off, we have Heavy Machinery to add some more depth to the SmackDown Tag Team division. So that was the results there for you of the Superstar Shakeup. So, George, we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw first. I think that's fair. We won't go through every single superstar. I think we'll be here all day otherwise if we do that. But we'll definitely talk about the key ones. And I think the first one we need to talk about is AJ Styles, arguably the biggest pick for Monday Night Raw. It was definitely his time to move from SmackDown Live, wasn't it?
Definitely. He's done it all on SmackDown. Clearly, he's beaten Samoa Joe. He's beaten Daniel Bryan before. I think it's great to see him get this fresh chance on there. I think for me, the natural feud down the line would be him versus Seth Rollins. I think that's going to be a moneymaker as we go into sort of the later parts of the year, really. I think this really opens up a chance for AJ Styles really to go back to maybe even being a heel. I think that could happen as well. But it was a great move. I think it's great. The amount of people AJ Styles can now face as well and put on potential 5-star classic matches, it makes Raw very easy to watch.
Yeah, I agree, and also he's quite a journeyman as well. I mean, he can put on some long matches if need be, some stellar 5-star classic matches, and I think on a 3-hour show you need that. If you're going to have people that are going to be on this show, and I think a lot of the Raw moves have been heavily used towards that. A lot of the people can put on long, good matches, which I think is what's needed on Raw. We had those sort of people, which no disrespect to them, but I mean, for example, Heavy Machinery, why it's good they're on SmackDown is because they're probably not designed for 20-minute matches. They kind of go out, they make their point, and then they go back. So they're kind of more suited for SmackDown Live. But for someone like AJ Styles, and one point you've touched on so perfectly there, is that the potential there, he could go back heel at some stage. It would be perfect because him versus Seth is a match we all want to see. There's not one person out there that wouldn't want to see that match. That is WrestleMania worthy. And potentially as well, if AJ Styles was to turn heel later down the line, it could be the likes of, I don't know, against The Miz. If he doesn't turn heel, Ricochet, Aleister Black, Cedric Alexander. There's many big matches that can be made there. I mean, even Sami Zayn is a part of this Raw brand as well. Of course, he was involved as like a free agent, even though he was kind of part of Raw. Do you think Sami Zayn is also a big save for how he's been produced or been portrayed, should I say, on WWE TV over the last couple of weeks?
I'm a massive fan of it. It really takes me back nostalgically to Bret Hart versus the United States back from 96, 97. It's very similar. I really thought this week he would come out and sort of obviously get the fans on side in Canada, but then ultimately he turned on them. But I really like the way that no matter what this guy is saying, even with the crowd sort of eating it up, he's still able to turn them at like the flick of a button, really, as such, which I think this guy, since coming back, has been one of the best on the mic for me so far currently in the promotion.
Certainly, indeed. There was actually a report going on Twitter that he actually has more creative control over his own promos. And if that's true, he is absolutely killing it because, like you said, that he had Montreal in the palm of his hand and he managed to turn them. And they turned on him as well. I mean, they were screaming some stuff we won't be repeating in French or translating either towards Sami Zayn towards the end of that promo. He did have everyone in the palm of his hand and he made the promo absolutely perfect. Probably the best moment of bliss, actually, I think we've ever seen on WWE TV. He really did a great job. We'll talk about then The Miz as well. The Miz was an interesting one because he was the first one, and we wasn't quite sure at the time. I mean, we've discussed this. Was it just an attack on Shane McMahon? It was only when we were told afterwards he's moved to Raw. Does this close the chapter with him and Shane McMahon, or do we think maybe there could be one more match in Saudi Arabia, or maybe Shane goes more on Raw? What's going to happen with that feud?
I'd say normally it would close the feud, but ultimately because Shane's McMahon, I think he can go wherever he wants. So I think potentially they can explore this at any time. I think the reason why the Miz has moved, it's pretty clear that they want to give an extra day to plug the Mr. and Miz show as such, because I believe the early ratings for the second series haven't been particularly great so far. But no, I think there is a little bit more longevity. It seems strange that they would end it with just this last attack as such. I thought they'd have a last match as such rather than an attack.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I still feel maybe the Saudi show, they could do that. I mean, there's Money in the Bank before as well on May the 19th. So there is some potentials. My only other disappointment with the Miz going to Raw is that he's only one reign off of becoming the all-time most holds of the Intercontinental Championship. That belt's now moved to SmackDown Live. Does that disappoint you that the Miz is going to have to wait at least another year before he could perhaps become a 10-time Intercontinental Champion?
It is quite disappointing, but I think you've got to save that type of nostalgia and sort of longevity for a big show like SummerSlam or WrestleMania. I think that's a WrestleMania-worthy story rather than just him winning it at a B-side pay-per-view as such.
Certainly. One other question about The Miz before we move on. Where do you see him fitting in on the Raw side? Do you see him as a mid-carder or an upper to main event level or somewhere in between? Where does The Miz fit in for you? And does he stay face or does he turn heel?
I think coming off his loss at WrestleMania, I think he's clearly going to be a mid-carder. I'd be surprised if he goes just any higher than that at the moment. I think the babyface thing's clearly working for him. I think clearly with Raw having quite a lot of heels already, I don't think he needs to turn heel. So I think he'll stay as a babyface. But I'd be interested to see who his first program is against. I could see him probably being in the Money in the Bank match, if I'm being honest, for a first sort of event on Raw again.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would fit quite well into the match. He's got plenty of experience with Money in the Bank as well, of course, being a winner of that, I believe, back in 2010. So there is certainly a good place to put him in to start off on the Raw brand. One other person then that would definitely perhaps fit quite well in the heel role of the mid card of Monday Night Raw, and certainly is going to get a push, is Andrade. And of course, he's joined with Zelina Vega. Of course, he picked up a win over the Intercontinental Champion, Finn Balor, on Raw. Do we see big things for Andrade going forward from this point onwards?
Yeah, he's got great potential. I think the fact that he's got this win clean and he beat the Intercontinental Champion, I think that says it already. I think clearly Andrade has got real potential to do stuff. So it would surprise me if he doesn't progress up the card quickly, because clearly it works. His work is great in the ring as well.
Yes, definitely indeed. And we're speaking of mid-card areas, so we might as well touch quickly on Rey Mysterio and Cedric Alexander. Those two stars. Do you think that they're going to do well on the Raw side?
I think Rey Mysterio is a bit of a nostalgic act. Clearly, he's been kind of watered down a bit. Clearly, following his destroying by Lars Sullivan last week. I think it's okay for a cameo, but I just don't see him anything more than somebody that's going to basically put people over. As for Cedric Alexander, he's a fantastic wrestler. He's clearly put on some weight now, looking at him as well. I think he's got a lot to offer, so I think he could fit in sort of multiple roles on the roster as such. So I think I'm interested to see what he can do.
Certainly. I think actually it's going to sound a bit weird, this, but I think he's going to fill kind of an Apollo Crews kind of role on Raw at this particular stage. Because, of course, Apollo's moved to SmackDown. So he'll probably be a lower mid-card guy, but I think he can put on some really good matches. We've seen it on 205 Live as well. I think the guy is going to do pretty well on the Raw brand. My only surprise is I really was convinced he was going to be in a tag team with Ali, but Ali has remained on SmackDown Live. So, I mean, potentially that tag team idea is out of the window for now. But we have mentioned the word tag teams. Let's go into the Raw tag team division. That has been heavily strengthened. The Usos, particularly being one. They were just SmackDown tag team champions not long ago. Do we think they're going to carry the Raw brand?
I think they've got potential. Not potential. I think they're capable of that at any time, but it just depends on where they're going to be and sort of down the line. I can see them eventually in a program potentially against either sort of Ricochet, Alexander Black, or the Viking Express as such, or Experience rather. But no, I think clearly it's a great acquisition for Raw. I think SmackDown has lost out slightly on that acquisition.
Yeah, although I would say SmackDown was heavily with tag team wrestling, and of course the only thing that I like with this that the Raw move has over SmackDown here is that Raw, as I say, it has more time, an extra hour to currently fill, and with that, teams like the Usos, they didn't get on TV every week, so now they probably will get television time every single week. And I agree with you. There's two big programs now. I wouldn't like to see them be the team to beat Hawkins and Ryder. I think that that needs to be a heel tag team. The Revival are still on Raw as well. We can't forget them there. But I mean, let's talk about Ricochet and Aleister Black. I mean, do we see them as long-term tag team, or do you think eventually these guys are going to go their separate ways and become more in the mid-card area of Monday Night Raw?
I really hope they go sort of their separate ways. I've got to be honest, I was a bit disappointed. I was hoping they would split up by this point, because clearly both of them are very capable. Ricochet clearly's got that massive babyface effect that I think he connects with the crowd. This guy can have some fantastic matches as singles. And Alexander Black, I think he's got potential to be a great heel. So this is okay. I don't know how long this is going to last with them two together, but if down the line I could see them splitting. I think that'll be a feud, personally. I think maybe by August time, I think they'll probably split, maybe.
Yeah, well, I think that would be a fair point as well. Like you say, a couple more months to give it a go. Really just give that idea of that Raw Tag Team division have a bit more strength and stability before they go their separate ways. I think that probably is the direction WWE is looking to go. And I agree with you. There are a couple of really good points there with Ricochet and Black. They've got potential to really connect with the crowd, however, which way they do it. One feud I would love to see, and we're going to touch more on Bray Wyatt a bit later, but I would love to see Black and Wyatt if Wyatt was to be put on Raw. I think that has got a lot of money written all over it. But as we're talking about tag team wrestling right now, I think we need to, discuss the Viking in the room. The Viking Express. Express is. I've done it now. It's a Viking Experience. We've both called them Express. To be honest, really, does it matter at this point? It's an awful name. It can't be improved. The Viking Experience. Eric and Ivar. To be fair, I mean, this has caused a lot of controversy on social media. These guys were the War Raiders. Now, I understand WWE doesn't want to use the word war in a tag team on the main programming, but at the same time, they've changed Hansen and Rowe as well. It feels like they've just been entirely repackaged from a tag team that we were sold for over 12 months on NXT TV, as well as still your current NXT tag team champions, I may add as well. George, give me some light. What's going on here?
I just think Vince McMahon obviously didn't like the name, so clearly he's changed the name. I can come up with a positive out of it, but I'll do the negative first. So with this, the problem with it is the fact you totally have to ignore what's been going on in NXT. These guys are still your NXT Tag Team Champions, so they've been called up with no baggage as such. So I think it's a bit of a joke, really. I think it just kind of really undersells them. I almost felt like the Berserker was going to come out as well, which I don't know. It felt people old enough. You remember the Berserker? I always felt like it's a comedy gimmick, which if you're debuting a new tag team, you don't want a comedy gimmick. But if we put on a positive, these guys have got a win over the tag team champions now, which I think that's a good thing. I think they've started off on the right foot, even though the names are a bit silly.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They've been pushed in a strong direction from the very beginning, and it does give you the feeling that these guys are going to be a big deal on Raw. Like you said, potential rivalries quite easy. They could have a rematch with Ricochet and Aleister Black, and of course with a new name, it's like a new match. But as well as that, you've got the Usos. There's a potential. They're probably going to destroy the likes of the B team as well. Heath Slater and Rhino, if he's still about wrestling as well. I know Rhino was recently put on the alumni section of WWE's website, but no confirmation has been said whether he's been released or not, to my knowledge anyway. But there are some, jobber tag teams. So, and as well, I mean, the Authors of Pain are out at the moment as well, so they're still labelled on Raw. So there was a strong division there, and I think that Raw, it was one area they really needed to improve on. And looking at this, I think they've done it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think clearly they've got a good deal out of the trade so far.
Definitely. Well, let's look at the women's division because, of course, we mentioned Andrade. That brings Zelina Vega over. We've got Naomi and we've got Lacey Evans. So looking at that, I mean, Lacey Evans, of course, has now inserted herself into the women's championship picture. Maybe it's a bit soon, but she did have a good showing on Raw. I thought that her match with Natalya was decent. The moonsault was very impressive. Now, I haven't really seen that done too much on NXT TV. Certainly, I'm used to watching the women's rights. Was her finisher before, but I quite enjoyed Lacey's performance. What do you feel?
I thought it was a good way to finally make an impact as such. Clearly, obviously, if you ignore the fact that she's been in the Women's Royal Rumble, and the fact she's just walking out every single week, I think the fact that you clearly know that she's going for somebody that's the main person in the company at the moment. So it's an interesting first feud for Becky Lynch, I think, as champion. I think the fact that you've got sort of the crowd on her already, the heat's great that she's getting as well. I think it's going to be really positive. But I just hope they don't take the belt off Becky Lynch just quick. I really hope that this isn't designed just to give the belt to Lacey Evans, because I don't think it's a good move as such.
No, it would be too soon. I actually don't see that the belt moving. I had a feeling that Lacey would do it if she was on SmackDown, but I have this feeling that Raw currently, at least until October, is still the number one brand. So I can see Becky Lynch holding both belts. Becky 2 belts seems to be over as well. I don't think them anytime for her, and it's good to put her in a meaningful program straight away. So I am pleased for Lacey Evans with that. But speaking of people that are probably not going to have the best success on Raw, we've got to discuss the jobber section. Eric Young, and as well as that EC3. Now, I think EC3 is a given. Every single person that debuted on Raw won, with the exception of EC3. Now, his match didn't even start. He was actually put through a stage by Braun Strowman. Is it safe to say, without being too negative, that EC3 is just going to be simply buried on Monday nights?
Yeah, it's a real shame, though, because this guy's capable, clearly former TNA champion. I just think it's a real shame. I don't know whether Vince has got something against him or something. It's just a bit odd that the way that he's been treated. Clearly, this guy's capable, I think. It's just a real shame.
Do you think it could be something to do that this gimmick is not WWE created, that this is an Impact gimmick?
Yeah, Vince is a bit of a person that likes doing stuff to people to kind of make them be punished as such. So the way he destroyed people in WCW, like when he took over, it's very similar to that. I just think it's a shame really to see C3 sort of be used as a jobber when he's capable. He's got a good look, and I think he could potentially, if he was built correctly, could have been up there. It could have been mid-card at least by now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, if he was going to be brought up as well, why not put him in a meaningful feud? Why just continue having him lose each and every time? I mean, as well, you have to look at this as well. We look at Broken Matt Hardy. That gimmick didn't last too long, did it? And it wasn't really that successful under the WWE banner. So they've put him back now as the old Hardy Boys tag team, and he's got success again. So it goes to show perhaps maybe Vince is not a fan of ideas that are not his own. So I feel that could be the thing that could be hurting EC3 at the moment. Maybe he needs to call EC1 and EC2 for backup. I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see how that is going to play out down the line. But one I really want to talk to you about, because I know you've been particularly a big fan of the Sanity Sanity gimmick. Sanity, as official now, is no more. Eric Young has been moved solely to Monday Night Raw, and we have learned as well that Alexander Wolfe has posted something on Twitter last night, which looks like he's leaving WWE, which would leave Killian Dane on his own on SmackDown. I'd like to get your thoughts first off on the move for Eric Young on Monday Night Raw. Do we see any potential in the guy?
The guy's a great wrestler, but the way he's booked under WWE and the way they've booked Sanity previously, I've not got confidence. I think this is a guy that's going to be fed to people, such as Braun, just to basically get them over, really.
Do you think that he could also be quite heavily featured against Tyler Breeze on main event?
Potentially, yeah. The thing is, he's got that lightweight look, isn't he, to a certain point? I think if you look at it as well, if we look at the last thing he's done, he jobbed in a 3-on-1 handicap match and he just got killed. So I just think if you look at that, it's just not going to work really. It's a strange choice. I think I really was surprised by Eric Young. It was a bit random. What did you think of it?
It was random to split them up. I was actually predicting that Sanity would move to Raw, may get a fresh start. Whether they would get much success, I wasn't really convinced by that. But to be that kind of, how we put it, maybe third or fourth in line for the tag belts, because they were currently like fifth or sixth on SmackDown, and normally that meant fifth or sixth meant you weren't getting to TV time. They were kind of, having time to, perhaps try and get themselves an up, down, down, really, more than getting on the main roster TV. But for me personally, I think Sanity, I was disappointed it didn't get the potential it could have had on the main roster. Eric Young, I agree, is probably going to be someone that's going to put people over, but he's got more chance of TV time being on Raw than he would have done if he was put on SmackDown. So that's one bonus I would say for Eric Young. What do we feel then about Alexander Wolfe leaving? Do we see it as much of a surprise? I personally didn't.
No, it's not a surprise. The way that they've been treated, as you said, hasn't been particularly great. So it's not surprising. Hopefully he can do something good in AEW if he goes there.
We'll have to wait and see. Quickly before we move on, I just want to touch on Killian Dane because, of course, he wasn't featured in the Superstar Shakeup. As we're talking about Sanity itself, do you think he has a potential where he could now break out a little bit better on SmackDown on his own?
I hope so. For me, he has to go to NXT UK. I think that's the natural fit. The way that this guy's dropped weight as well, this guy's trying to improve himself, yet he's not getting a chance. So put him on NXT UK. He'll connect with the crowd, definitely.
I love that idea. It's a great idea, that him on NXT UK, because I think NXT UK has got a great market, and they've done a great job so far building that brand. I mean, they've slowly built the characters. Now they're really starting to build feuds and stuff. And they've had the first takeover. Technically, you could argue that they stole the show at WrestleMania weekend with the Dunn versus Walter match. That was a masterclass as well, particularly when it felt like maybe the crowd wasn't as familiar with Walter as well. So it was a great way that they turned that crowd as well. So very special indeed. We'll have to wait and see. But before we move on to SmackDown Live, very quickly, we mentioned about one person that was leaving, and one person who was on SmackDown who's also asked for their release is Luke Harper. I think it's quite fair to say that back at WrestleMania 33, he was hot at that point and should have been added into the Randy Orton Bray Wyatt match, into a triple threat for the WWE Championship. It never happened. WWE just has never really had that confidence with Luke Harper. They never pulled the trigger. He's a special talent. George, are you as disappointed as I am that he has asked for his release?
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think the way that they've treated him has just not been great. I think the fact that he's never really recovered since his injury following the Bludgeon Brothers tag team, I think he was a great, capable wrestler. It's just a shame to see that. I think what's quite interesting about it is the way he's done it. Normally wrestlers would probably do it, but the way he went on Twitter publicly and asked for this release, it's a bit weird. What did you make of the way he's asked for this release as well, before we move on?
It feels a little bit kind of the same way that Cody went about it with his release, and perhaps there's some real confidence that he's probably going to get granted that release, and probably maybe this is just a way of superstar power, because there's a lot of rumours that there's backstage unhappiness. I don't know if there's any truth in that or not, but a lot of superstars seem to be asking or teasing for releases. I mean, we've only got to talk about Sasha Banks, that there's been a lot going on since we last did something here with SCW, that she's been reportedly very unhappy, wanting to leave, even kicking up a fuss when the tag team belts were going to be taken off a WrestleMania weekend. There seems to be this idea of a superstar revolt almost. There's almost that people, if they collectively did something, that maybe they can try and make some movements or changes. I don't quite know. I mean, I'm not in WWE, so I can't turn around and say if this stuff is true or false, but it does seem like there is some superstar unrest for people to continually want releases, and to go through this method to answer your question, I think that this is a way done as almost, well, I want to leave, so if I do this publicly, maybe I've got more chance because WWE don't want a bad image done against them. They're really conscious of this idea of this good image. And I mean, I can't remember, but it was the last week's show that was done, and that 20-minute thing of bashing WWE at that point as well. There is a little bit of negative publicity going on WWE at the moment. So maybe Harper thought this was the best road to go down. And whether that's the right road, I'm not going to necessarily say that is the right way to go about it, but maybe it's the way he will get some success out of it. But hey, I'm purely speculating. But do you have anything more to add on Luke Harper before we move on?
I think the reason why he's done it is he wants to go AEW. I think AEW is giving a lot of people that are unhappy a platform to go to, and they've got a lot of backing, which it makes it interesting. It makes wrestling a bit more interesting for us as fans, because you never know what's true and what's not now, which is great, I reckon.
It's very true. I mean, the market is out there, and of course, I mean, Enzo and Kaz as well showed up at ROH as well. So there is different platforms. There's New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. The Impact Wrestling, even though they've perhaps got the biggest market, they've certainly got a decent, talented roster. There is actually places for people to go now. The wrestling scene is so strong that perhaps WWE isn't the be all and end all. And of course, if you think, hey, I'm not being used well enough here and I can make it somewhere else, why not go give it a go and try yourself out? But of course, WWE doesn't want to let these talents go, and why would they? They don't want these talented wrestlers on the competition. So I can see both sides of point of view if all rumours and stuff we read on dirt sheets is true. I mean, like I say, everything that we're talking about is purely opinion and speculation. That we don't know full facts in anything that's been said, but it's certainly interesting as a topic and discussion. And I mean, to be fair, AEW, where the mid-carders go to play, what do you reckon?
Sounds good, doesn't it? Definitely.
It certainly does indeed. Gives them a platform. And to be fair, I mean, to take AEW a bit more seriously, I think they've got serious potential. There is rumours that TV deals are on the table, and I think since Cody in particular left WWE, I think he has been killing it in ROH in New Japan. I've actually loved watching his work, and I think that if he had stayed in WWE, I don't think he would have been granted that work. So, I mean, all that freedom to express himself the way his character has been done. So, I mean, it just goes to show that you can get success outside of the big company. But we're here to talk about the big company. We're here to talk about the superstar shake-up. So let's move to the blue brand of SmackDown Live, and arguably the biggest move, the big dog. I'm just really trying to plug this. It's Roman Reigns. Are we a fan of this move? I think it was the right time for him to go to the blue brand.
It's fresh. It's a great move. I think the way they built it up was very good as well. I like that on SmackDown. I thought that was very clever. But no, it's a great move. I think it gives Roman Reigns another platform to wrestle new people.
Yeah, it certainly does. We look at that main event area as well. I mean, him versus Daniel Bryan, I think, is probably the key match that we'll be looking forward to over the next 12 months. I mean, that was the one that really stood out for me. But, I mean, the likes of Cesaro, if he gets a push, Sheamus, there are people that he can have some decent matches with on the SmackDown brand. I'm trying to think of more of the big heels, though, on SmackDown Live. It seems to be more of that a lot of the big heels are thrown into tag teams like Rusev and Nakamura. Perhaps if they can get a bit more momentum, they can really push the heel side up a little bit on SmackDown Live.
Definitely. I think potentially if you're looking at down the line, you can look at somebody like a Lars Sullivan once they've had some build as such. The way he's going at the moment is pretty good. But it's great to see Roman Reigns over there. Clearly it brings a main event feel before this Fox deal that's due to launch.
Yeah, and I feel that that's the big part of that move, don't you? That Fox is a key part of why Roman Reigns is there. You look, Roman Reigns is on that show. Charlotte Flair stayed on SmackDown Live. There are some big hitters and some big names there that are on SmackDown Live that arguably you would have said if this had been the draft 10 years ago that they would have definitely been Raw names. So to see that SmackDown Live has got some of the big hitters really does say that they're taking the Fox deal very seriously. We'll talk about Finn Balor then, the Intercontinental Champion, next. So now we've got two mid-card titles on SmackDown Live. Now, rumour has it that Samoa Joe was unable to function. He was backstage at Raw, but he was so unwell that they couldn't use him and they had to rewrite that part of the show. And in fact, he was supposed to have a segment with Braun Strowman. That was why EC3 got the burial that he did. But we look at this and say, so is Joe now stuck on SmackDown, or is he going to find a way to get to Monday Night Raw?
Joe will be on Monday Night Raw. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they're going to have two mid-card titles on the same brand. It seems a bit sort of weighted as such. So next show, I think I'm pretty sure Joe will be there. But it's a great switch. I think it gives Finn something else to do. Gives Joe a brand new lease of life. Gives him great exposure on Raw as well. So I think it's a great move.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, particularly at the time, I was quite disappointed with Finn Balor as moving over because it was the idea that we can see these matches. Like, I really want to see Finn Balor versus Aleister Black. I got to admit that's one of my dream want to see matches. You know, that dark mystique of Aleister Black against a demon Finn Balor as well. And perhaps that could be the gimmick as well. The idea of that rivalry, like Aleister Black wants to bring the demon out of Finn Balor. I would love that as a permanent fixture, a permanent demon Finn Balor. But I mean, I'm a dreamer, I'm a fantasy booker, and it's definitely not going to happen for 12 months, so we can move on from that. But the idea that Finn Balor now is on SmackDown Live, and we mentioned Daniel Bryan, there's Cesaro, there is Nakamura, there are some really good ideas of matches that are there for Finn Balor. I mean, his match with Ali on SmackDown as well was outstanding. Would you agree?
That was a very good match. I'm really, every time I see Ali, I'm quite impressed with his improvement since 205. I think he clearly held his own. I think that was a real credible match. I think it looked like Finn sort of found somebody that I'd like to see him have a match again against, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I would happily see that again as well. And I think we've got a couple of people there. We mentioned Money in the Bank earlier. It would be quite well fitted for that style of match there. But we'll move swiftly on. We mentioned the word Lars Sullivan already. Now, he did kind of appear on Raw, which made me feel he was on Raw last night, but now he's been confirmed on SmackDown Live. Clearly, this was a way of extra booking. We heard there was a lot of rumours of travel issues and a lot of rewriting having to be done last minute for Raw. So maybe he was a last minute add-on for Raw last night. So maybe we need to give WWE a pass here. But did you find it a bit confusing nonetheless?
It was confusing, but Lars Sullivan's almost got the gimmick now. He can do what he wants. He doesn't answer to authority. I think it was great, though, to see him finally secure himself on a brand. And interesting first potential sort of program, looking at him, like looking at what he's doing. It looks like he's going to go into stalking Carmella. That's the way I read it. And sort of it's going to be very similar to when Braun Strowman was listening to Alexa Bliss. I think that's the route they're going to go. The only person that could kind of stop is Carmella. What do we reckon for a first program for Lars Sullivan? Who would you like to see him face at Money in the Bank if he's on it?
Well, I mean, potentially then it would be R-Truth if that was an idea, because funny enough, you mentioned that. Carmella did put, if you follow her on Instagram, she did put a few stories on there, and she did actually say that she put a picture of Lars Sullivan's face and like can't sleep, and it's just him staring into the screen, which was kind of freaky. And only a couple of bits down further in the Instagram story was Kane and Lita. Now, that was from back from 2005, if I'm not mistaken, with that wedding. Maybe they could be going down that road of a repeat storyline. So it's great that you mentioned that and picked that up there. So R-Truth could be the first guy that Lars Sullivan does go through. But I imagine, like you say, it's going to be a slow progress to get Lars towards the main event. And looking at it on the SmackDown side, there is actually room for him to become a main eventer on SmackDown Live.
Yeah, there is. I think clearly this guy's got a lot of potential. He's a bit like a Brock Lesnar light. I don't mean to insult him or be rude. I think this guy's got a great fear factor. And I think the way that they've sort of built him initially has been impressive. He's taken out Kurt Angle. He's taken out Rey Mysterio. This guy looks like he's the finished article. He looks like he's unstoppable, which for me, I think the dream match down the line, this is jumping ahead a bit now, would be WrestleMania next year where him and Braun have a match. I think that's the natural match, the main dream match as such. But it's a long way to go. But I think Lars for his first match, R-Truth's okay, but for me, the problem I have with R-Truth is he's just a bit of a joke. He's not really a serious wrestler, so I think Lars beating R-Truth doesn't do anything. I think it's okay. I think if it's Lars beats R-Truth and then somebody else comes out for a cameo, that's fine. But I just think it would be filler. But if you get Lars Sullivan and R-Truth in a feud, Camilla maybe could turn, which she could speak for him because Lars can't really speak, it seems. I think potentially that's that. It doesn't strike me somebody could do a promo. I think that could make some sort of interesting TV potentially.
Certainly. Would you miss a 7-second dance break if that was to happen?
Not really. I think it's okay for a laugh, but Camilla clearly she won the Women's Royal Rumble thing at WrestleMania, the Battle Royal, so that she's got capability and she's obviously an ex-Divas champion. So I think it would make sense. I think I'd quite like to see her turn here and be with Lars. I think that could be a good partnership.
Certainly would be interesting. But one thing I'd like to see before that happens, because they've been put on the same brand, Elias gets interrupted every single week. Would you not like to see him interrupted by a dance break? I think it could make an interesting one-off week. Not to keep harping on about dance breaks, because let's be fair, WWE, that is only 7 seconds of the show. We shouldn't spend more than 7 seconds ourselves. But Elias on SmackDown Live, do we see a lot of potential with him on that side as well?
He's entertaining. I like the gimmick they're doing with all these people interrupting him, but you're interrupting by big people every time, basically. I just hope that it means something. I'd like to see him more wrestle rather than just this continual interruption of a promo, really, as long as it leads somewhere. I think ultimately it's okay. It gives Elias somewhere else to do, but I think it could get boring quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I was this is the one move I was a bit disappointed about because I kind of like the idea on Raw. He's got time, and they normally need to fill time. So with him on the guitar, it breaks the show up. It gives you just a bit of filler, and that's why I thought R-Truth and Carmella would move to Raw as well because it just have a little bit of a filler moment if you need to just unwind from a big match for 20 minutes. You stick Elias on or you stick the dance break on, but clearly Miss TV is going to take on Raw, and they obviously have plans for Elias on SmackDown. But thinking about this since, and like I said, you look at the heel side, maybe Elias is in for a big push here. Do you think maybe Elias could be going towards the top end of the card here?
I'd like to see it, but you're going to have to ignore what's been going on before, all this time that he's been destroyed by everybody. I think it was okay. I thought it was quite funny to see him in that spot, sort of on SmackDown. I think it kind of was quite genius in some respect. But no, I think Elias is continually going to be this guy that just does this promo. And then sort of, I think the long-term plan probably is the Saudi Arabia show where he's probably going to face The Undertaker, I guess, if I'm going to take a punt now.
Certainly, I feel that could be a potential as well. But do you think as well, judging after SmackDown, that perhaps Elias and Roman Reigns is the first feud going forward?
Potentially. I'm just not really convinced that Roman Reigns should be wasting time with Alliance, really. I think it's nothing feud as such. It could happen, but I think it don't really do much.
No, certainly not, no. But we'll move on for the meantime anyway, and we're going to quickly just touch on the rest of the SmackDown roster very quickly because the women's division was heavily filled up. We see, of course, the new tag team that's from NXT that Paige has put together, where one of them was already on SmackDown Live, which was Asuka and Kairi Sane. It seems they want to keep Io Shirai in NXT a bit longer, but I'm okay with that tag team. I guess Asuka has been kind of, where was she going to go? Asuka wasn't going to go anywhere. So I guess this way it keeps her relevant. Kairi Sane, it was time for her to come up. She could do no more in NXT. I still kind of like this tag team, even though it's not Sane and Shirai.
Yeah, I think it's great to see sort of Kairi Sane get that opportunity in the main roster. She deserves it. So I think it's great. And the fact that that she's got the win clearly this week on SmackDown, I think it's a great start. So, no, it gives Asuka something to do. We've got to ignore the fact that Asuka beat Becky Lynch earlier in the year. I think I've totally got to pretend that didn't happen. But I think it's a great move. I think it gives the women's tag team division something else to do as such.
Yeah, definitely some strength in that. You look at that division now. We've got the Iconics. We've got was it the Fire and Desire of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. We've now got this women's tag team of Sane and Asuka. So there is a little bit of strength there, even though they've broken a couple of other teams up, which we'll go into very shortly. But we need to talk about Ember Moon first, very quickly. I predicted this one would happen, and I'm very pleased it has happened. She is going to be a big deal, I think, in this SmackDown Live women's division. How do you feel?
Yeah, I really hope so. I think she's a really good wrestler. I think she's lost herself a bit previously on Raw, so I think it's great to see her get this new, fresh opportunity. And I think she's really a credible wrestler, so I really like to see her go far.
I can really see her time coming when Becky loses, because I think this is, we can talk about Becky very quickly as well, because she has both belts. I think when she loses a belt, she then goes to the other show and then she remains on the other show. So my feeling is she will lose the SmackDown Women's Championship first and she'll remain on Raw, because Raw needs her, looking now how strength and depth SmackDown has it on that roster. They've got like over 11 or 12 women on that roster, so they don't need anybody else. Becky needs to go onto Raw, in my personal opinion. Do you think that when that belt is dropped to SmackDown, say it goes back maybe to Charlotte Flair or whoever it's going to go to, that then perhaps we could get that maybe a dream program? It could be a dream program. I think Charlotte and Ember would have a fantastic feud.
It'll be decent. I'd like to see that, definitely.
Definitely. Well, let's talk about the split tag teams then, shall we? We've got Bayley, who turned up on her own. She was very unpopular, by the way, in Montreal. The Boston Hug connection seems to be definitely done. Bayley has left her hugs on Raw, apparently. Are we going to see a new attitude from Bayley on SmackDown Live?
I think it's heading that way. Clearly, I think the heel turn is overdue. So I think the fact she don't come out now with her balloons in the air and all this lot, I think it'll be good. Her turning heel will be a breath of fresh air. So I hope it happens. The reason why she was on her own is clearly the problems that's been going on with Sasha Banks. I think it makes sense to split them up. Sasha probably will go back to Raw. So Bayley, it's great to give Bayley a fresh chance as a singles wrestler again, because I think she's quite good as a singles wrestler.
Certainly, indeed. And one thing, we mentioned Sasha Banks very quickly. If she does come back to Raw, they might give her what she wants to stay because she wants to leave. If you read reports, maybe a heel turn and maybe a program with Becky Lynch. That would be something I would love to see.
Yeah, clearly Sasha Banks as a heel will work. Her work in NXT was stellar, so I'd like to see that again, definitely.
Certainly. Maybe you might even get Team Bad, her and Tamina again. And Naomi. Let's hope not. But that's a potential as well that could happen on the Raw side now. But we will look as well quickly. Liv Morgan as well as moved, which means the Riot Squad. That's it. It could be finished. Liv Morgan is one that doesn't make much sense, but she was the one that I understood made sense in moving over. I think Sarah Logan, of course, she is married to, I'm going to go with Ro because I'm still not sure which one is which now of the Viking experience. But I think she's going to join them as a manager. I think Ruby is going to be a singles competitor on a Ronan Raw. So this frees up Liv Morgan to do something else different on SmackDown Live. Do we think that she could get lost in the shuffle, though?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's probably a good bet.
Certainly. Mickie James has joined as well. So that could be interesting. Again, she's more of a nostalgia act, would you say, like you mentioned with Rey Mysterio earlier?
Yeah, she's one for the past. Always great to see her in there with the putting the newer wrestlers over as such.
Definitely. Buddy Murphy has come up from 205 Live. I'm pleased to see him there. I mean, the guy was bigger than a lot of the 205 Live guys anyway. I think he's got potential to play an Andrade role, what Andrade did on SmackDown last year. I think we could see some good things coming from Buddy. Are you pleased to see him on the SmackDown Live brand?
Very happy. He did all he could on 205, so clearly this guy's capable of a lot more. And I like the opening promo this week on SmackDown. I thought that was really good. It really told who he was for people that weren't aware of him.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that as well. And hopefully he's got a big momentum coming his way. We're just going to touch on him very quickly on the last couple of names. We've got Chad Gable, Apollo Crews, and we've got Otis and Tucker, which of course Heavy Machinery. They have all joined SmackDown Live as well. Chad Gable no longer going to be with Bobby Roode. It seems that tag team is finished then. Bobby Roode stays on Raw. Going to throw a little prediction out, George, just to throw it at you, because anything I think could be remotely interesting with Chad Gable here. I think maybe him and Shelton Benjamin might reunite.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'd like to see that happen again. It will give SmackDown another tag team.
Yeah, and I think they would give Shelton something to do. And I think that clicked better than him and Bobby Roode. But certainly one idea I had. Apollo Crews, I think he would have been lost in the Raw mid-card shuffle. SmackDown is a good place for him. I think that he actually has got potential to stand out a little bit this time on SmackDown. Do you agree?
Yeah, he has, definitely. He's got an opportunity now to kind of prove a point. I just hope he's not the first person in the Lars Sullivan beatdown brigade as such. I can see Lars Sullivan kind of taking him out quite soon, probably.
Yeah, that's a potential as well there. You do mention that there. It's a very good point there. And, we've got a better idea with catering as well, because the steaks must be cooked on Tuesdays. Heavy Machinery are there on SmackDown Live. So, I mean, I've already given my opinion on this. What's your opinion with Heavy Machinery? Is it the right brand for them?
Yeah, I guess they kind of have. There's kind of much more for them just to get on with, really. I think it's okay. I think if they'd have stayed on Raw, they wouldn't have really fitted in as such.
No, and you've still got the Bar, you've got Shin and Rusev, we've got the New Day, and we've got the Hardy Boys. So there were some tag teams there, and that's enough teams I think to fill a 2-hour show. So I think that they are probably in the right position at the right home. So that's pretty much the shake-up. So I mean, the question really is, who got the better end of this deal? Do you feel, Raw or SmackDown, George?
I'm going to go for Raw. I think if you look at who Raw got, they've got some fantastic wrestlers. They've got AJ Styles, they've got The Miz, Ricochet, Aleister Black. They've got the fact that the Raw roster was quite stacked anyway, so I think Raw have got them four alone. It's a great deal, really. I think all that Raw have lost is Roman Reigns and Finn Balor, really, which it's not really that much. No offense to anybody.
No, not at all. No, and personally, I would agree. I think Raw got the better end of the deal, but I mean, I think it's more for. I think they got the priorities right in this shake-up. I think that if you look at things and say, right, okay, well, a lot of the journeymen did go over to Raw, so we've got good match quality for these 3-hour shows on Monday nights. Because if you're going to sit for a 3-hour show, I want to see some good wrestling. And not that it was bad wrestling on Raw, but when you've got someone like AJ Styles, you've got the Usos, you've got, these kind of guys, Ricochet, Aleister Black, I know I'm going to be entertained with watching their matches. So match side of things, I'm set for Monday Night Raw each and every week. I'm looking forward to see how Cedric Alexander fits in as well. It's just the writing that now is probably the main fear factor with Monday nights, if that can keep me entertained for 3 hours. But from a wrestling perspective, I'm very happy with Raw, and I think that it really is going to have a real fresh feel from next week. I'm really looking forward to it. So many new names. For SmackDown, I agree, but they've gone more for name value, and I like that they have got a bit of they've kind of gone with two rows with SmackDown. You've got the biggest names, and you've kind of got like a lot of potential. And to use those superstars, you can make the potential something with those big names. And for me, I'm quite excited with WWE. I think there is a lot of potential if they can keep the writing good. And I do think there was the SmackDown this week was actually a fairly well written show. I do want to touch on some of the superstars that didn't move in the shake-up. And one I do want to touch on very quickly is Big O. Of course, I'm talking about Kevin Owens. Now, he was a main part of SmackDown Live this week. And he was, of course, an honorary member replacing Big E of the New Day. Now, I wanted to go just a quick bit of a little bit of fantasy booking, and I just want to get your viewpoint on the idea that I've gained from watching this on SmackDown, and also want to get your idea of what you thought of actually watching on SmackDown. Now, I mean, for me, I thought that the comedy gold was there, but we had Kevin Owens, of course, trying the crop top on. We had the pancakes. We had him trying the Big E announcement. It almost feels like he is filling Big E's boots. And he's been easily replacing Big E. So we've said for a long time, Kofi and Big E, that could be a feud. Big E could turn heel when he comes back. And I think that is something of potential to go forward. But is Kevin Owens using Kofi in the meantime? Because Kofi needs a competitor to face for the WWE Championship. Let's not put Roman Reigns straight in there, because Roman Reigns is the wrong guy to beat Kofi Kingston, in my opinion. You're going to make people boo Roman Reigns very, very quickly. So my opinion on this is Kevin Owens turns heel in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, however long it is, to get to Money in the Bank. Kofi Kingston will probably retain the WWE Championship, or he's going to be cost the WWE Championship by Big E at this point. So KO is the champion, and therefore Roman Reigns can take it off a heel Kevin Owens perhaps later down the line at maybe a SummerSlam. Then we get the New Day feud going forward. So, I mean, those are just some fantasy booking ideas I had from it. What did you gather from SmackDown Live watching this week? Do you like those ideas and potentials of what could happen going forward?
I do like it. I feel it isn't as impactful as a Big E. Big E was fit and wasn't injured. But going for SmackDown, I really thought watching SmackDown this week that the main event was going to have Kevin Owens turn heel. I was just pretty sure the way it was written that was going to happen. But I like what you said. I do think that Kevin Owens, long term as a face, probably isn't going to happen. So I think that could fit. The thing is, what I'm interested to see is what they do with Kofi, to who the first challenger is and how they get there and what's next, really. Because I think down the line, you are still probably looking at a Kofi Daniel Bryan match again. I think that could happen at Money in the Bank. And then it's where you go next, really. But Kevin Owens turning, it's okay. I'd much rather see, and that sounds probably not the same level, I'd much rather see Xavier turn for me, really. He's got that longevity, he's got that history with Kofi, whereas Kevin Owens is a bit of he's just a cameo as such, really.
Certainly did. Well, I mean, there's no reason why Kofi might not lose everybody. I mean, of course, Kofi is only in the position he's in if you go with WWE writing because of the other members of the New Day getting him in that position. So there is certainly a lot of things you could do with this Kofi title run. And I mean, I'm sure many people would agree that it's not going to be a 9-month reign as champion. He's probably going to hold the belt most probably till about July time. I don't see by the time we hit SummerSlam that Kofi will be WWE champion still. I just personally can't see it, especially now with Roman Reigns on the brand. I think the idea for them will be to get the belt on him sooner rather than later. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can't see him as a 6-month champion. I think it's a great fit at the moment. It was a very good WrestleMania moment. I think the way that the crowd have warmed Kofi is fantastic. The way Kofi's got himself over, it's fantastic. But clearly with Roman Reigns on the brand now, I think long-term Roman Reigns is probably going to be the dream champion for WWE still. I don't see that as change as such.
No, neither do I. But so, I mean, is there any superstars that you would like to discuss, George, past the superstar shake-up that you think have benefited, that stayed on their shows? Anyone that you might think, right, that this is good for them because now they have this person to face? So I suppose Seth Rollins would be a first name that would come to mind.
I think it's great. I think it's great that Seth's still on Raw. Clearly, as we said earlier, the program with AJ Styles down the line could be good. Seth will obviously bring longevity to the belt. I think looking at it as well, there's a lot of the moves were smaller wrestlers this year, which I was kind of surprised at. I felt from previous drafts you were getting main eventers sort of moving, which I felt had impact. Whereas this year people moved and there wasn't much of a response as such. It was just like, oh, Eric Young's moved, okay. It just doesn't really feel the same as the old drafts where you've got major people moving across the whole show, really. And the way you're finding out they're not in a match, they just turn up as such. You're not seeing them that week, you're seeing them next week when they debut as such. What I would ask you, Steve, is did you feel that Raw and SmackDown lacking a GM role really hindered the draft and the programming presentation, would you say?
I would actually, yeah. I mean, the thing for me is, I mean, we look at the history when they've done these shake-ups or drafts, as we prefer. I think we prefer the term draft, but it is the shake-up in the modern day. we look at the old school from back from 2002, and they had the podiums, and 2004. I remember like Paul Heyman going out there and saying, we want Mark Jindrak. That was we want Rene Dupree. Okay, that one of the biggest draft picks back in those days, but 2004 they were the way they went. They looked and they scouted the roster and said, we've won a match. It was a Raw versus SmackDown match. We won the match. We get the draft pick. Who do we want? Then we got later on where they stopped doing the podiums, and then we got this screen where about 50 faces came in about 4 seconds, and then we got told who moved show. I did prefer both of those methods into the method we've got now. It feels like yes, I know it is technically someone's first day at work because they're on the new show, but the people that come through the curtain half of the time for me look lost. It's almost just a bit like, hi, I'm Chad Gable and I'm here. It's just a bit like, it's a bit different. It's a bit weird. It's not, it doesn't have a lot of purpose and meaning behind it, which I think sometimes can be seen as a bit lackluster when it comes to these shake-ups. I don't mind it in one respect as well, because you don't know at any point anyone can turn up. So in one way that, I mean, when first off the making experience, despite how bad that name, but when the music first hit, I popped massively watching that live on Raw. I was like, yes, that's what a great move that is. We've got the NXT tactic. It made me feel anyone could turn up as well. I was really hoping Shayna Baszler would turn up, and I felt that this became a realistic possibility because we didn't expect this team to come up. But you look at it and say, yeah, I still prefer the old way where someone had a match, they won, therefore they got a draft pick. But I suppose maybe the way they could do this to improve it going forward, because I understand the idea as well, you want to keep Raw separate to SmackDown. What's the point of turning into SmackDown if we know like Roman Reigns on Raw is already going to be on there? Well, we know that. We don't need to see it. So you could do basically Raw versus SmackDown matches on both shows, but only the time you get draft picks are when Raw wins the match on Raw and when SmackDown wins the match on SmackDown. That would be, I suppose, a way I would do it to improve it going forward. I don't know how you would feel about that.
I think it's a good idea. I think you need to do something that further creates this is a different product you're watching. It's a different show. Whereas coming on with a Fox deal now potentially being 3 hours as well, you don't want Raw and SmackDown to be a carbon copy of each other. You want that difference as such. Which a key example, what I felt let it down slightly, was you got people such as Aleister Black and Ricochet. They've been on Raw every week, so it's not new. It's the same thing as such. I felt a bit.
I really thought they would be split up. I really did. I thought that Black would go on to Raw, and I thought Ricochet was going to be SmackDown. I thought with this Fox deal, he's a highlight reel. That 6:30 to be put on the news every week, when they do their Fox whatever, bits of the week or whatever. I thought that would have been massive, but they've clearly gone to keep these guys on Raw. But, I mean, technically, I do feel looking at it that, SmackDown has some of the biggest names. So, I mean, I do think it's a well-balanced out 2 sets of rosters here, so it certainly is interesting to see what goes on. And were there any moves that didn't happen that you thought should have happened? What were the moves? Is there any that you were disappointed about, thinking, I really wish they'd have changed show? I think it would have benefited them.
I really was hoping to see Daniel Bryan going to Raw. I thought he could have done some great work with Seth Rollins. Personally, that was one for me that I really would like to have seen. I also would like to have seen Nakamura go to Raw as well, because I felt Nakamura at the moment he's not really anywhere on the card. He's just in this tag team with Rusev, which he's still got great potential. And I think the fact that he's now sort of just a tag team wrestler, it's just amazing how far somebody could go down the card in 13 months or 14 months, really.
I would agree with both of them picks. I just want to say quickly, George, I think they're great ideas. I agree. Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, what a match that could have been. I want to see that more than Reigns versus Daniel Bryan, if I'm honest. But I do understand that we're probably going to get that match first. And perhaps somewhere down the line, we will get Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins. Why not a WrestleMania? It could still happen next year if one of them wins a Royal Rumble or whatever. But I totally agree with you. That match I would love to have seen. Nakamura, totally, I would have split that tag team up with him and Rusev. I think Nakamura, like you said, more TV time, maybe a potential of better matches with people on Raw. But he isn't completely... When you look at that heel side on SmackDown, he isn't completely down the pecking order. He's got a potential to rise again. And a rumour is he has signed a new contract, so maybe that was the thing. They were perhaps writing him down because the contract was going down. They thought, well, if you're not going to go anywhere, we're going to... I mean, AJ Styles lost the belt before he signed his new contract. They weren't going to keep him as the champion if he was not going to sign the contract. So if you believe all that sort of stuff, maybe that was a part to do with his booking. It might improve going forward. Looking from Raw to SmackDown, I mean, there are two that I would love to have seen. for me, the trio needed breaking up of Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin. I'm sick of seeing them three in 6-man tag matches every single week. For me personally, I would have moved one of them. I would have moved Lashley with Leo Rush. Because I think that he almost would have felt like the Lars role on SmackDown now, because he's kind of the big muscles, perhaps we've been taken more creditable. I know we'd have had to have forgotten some of the booking, like you say, like we do with some of the other superstars, but I think Lashley would have benefited being on SmackDown Live more. And I would have loved to have seen Paul Heyman turn up on SmackDown Live, just for that pure basis of just the ladies and gentlemen, when he does come back, when he chooses, he will be here on SmackDown Live because he wants to be where he goes. It's the A show, and you know what I mean. Like, I think that would have been great to have had that little promo, but it doesn't mean it won't happen down the line with Paul Heyman. They can probably turn up anywhere they want. And James brought up a great point last week, saying that Brock Lesnar could be a free agent and just go wherever he chooses. Would you like to see that?
Yeah, I really agree with that. I felt that sort of Brock not being on the show SmackDown and Heyman not being there was a bit of a missed opportunity. But I do agree with James's point that Brock is a free agent. He's got that legendary status. He can go where he wants. He's a bit like The Undertaker, John Cena. They can do what they want. Speaking about what you said about people moving across, I felt that if Lashley would have gone across, I would have loved to have seen him in a program with Big E. I think that would be a great wrestling match as such, which is a shame, really.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that as well. That would be a decent match indeed, because they're both quite big hitters. They're both, big physiques and that. And yeah, it's the sort of thing you think Vince would book as well. He would like to have seen that. So yeah, no, that definitely would have been exciting indeed. We've touched a lot of the Superstar shakeup, but there is actually one part of the Superstar shakeup we have not spoke about, because there is one person who, if I'm not mistaken, has not been given either brand, who was an NXT call-up. I'm talking about Nikki Cross. Now, what has happened with Nikki?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I think the fact that she's not anywhere, is she going back to NXT? Is she just going to appear? I think the fact that you've got, as we said earlier, Alexander Wolfe going, Eric Young calling up, I think she's going to get potentially repackaged. I think she'll come up and it will just be a case of wherever she's needed as such. The fact that she's not been moved, it's a mystery. I think, where would you put her by choice? I think she needs to go to. Quite like to see her on SmackDown. I think she'd fit in well.
Yeah, I mean, in one way, I think SmackDown would be good for her, because I think that maybe she would get, looking at the face and heel dynamic, maybe she would be right. But there are so many women on that SmackDown roster now. I just feel maybe that Raw would be the better home because she has more chance of TV time. That would be my basis with it. But of course, I mean, she is with Killian Dane, and they don't always keep the idea of the couples together. But I mean, sometimes they do.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Forgive me for interrupting you. I've just come just a brainwave all of a sudden. Wouldn't you love to see her involved in this new Bray Wyatt gimmick that's going on? I think she could do a great job, great service to that gimmick. I think she could really fit into kind of the darkness of the way that's going. It looks like potentially.
I love it. I'm gonna go out there now and say I love it. I mean, we still don't know who this Sister Abigail is, and we should mention Bray Wyatt as well, because he doesn't currently have a show either. He's going to come in and fit in one of these shows, and he's obviously got a repackaged character, it seems here. Now we've got like this weird buzzard in the box, and now we've got this dollhouse effect last week, which I thought the second one was actually really good. It was a bit creepy as well. If you don't like your dolls, then this is definitely a video that's going to give you the heebie-jeebies. For me, I feel that they've kind of almost rescued this repackage of Bray Wyatt with this second visualette.
Calling me nostalgic, based on nostalgia, I really love like vignettes and stuff like that. So it's great to see them do this. I think the second one, as you said, was far better. The first one was a bit odd. I thought it was the gobbledygooker coming back, as probably you did. But the second one was really good. I really like the way they're playing on like Jigsaw from the Saw films a bit with Sister Abigail, I presume, in the chair. But Bray's definitely on his way back. It'll be great to see what he does. I'd quite like to see him potentially build up another stable, like whether that's with people such as Mojo Rawley and people like that are currently going a bit weird as such. I think Bray with a heel stable, people doing his work again, could work for me, because WWE at the moment are short of stables in the main show as such. I think there's not really a lot of not a lot of stables in.
No, and what way better to sort of make your brand more individual? If you're looking and saying, right, okay, I want to make the two brands seem a bit different, put a couple of stables on one brand and not on the other, and that already gives a different feel there already, because you've kind of got that gang warfare. And I agree with you. I think Bray Wyatt is usually better in strength in numbers And I want to see a darker Bray Wyatt. And it felt with that second one in particular that this is going to be a really darker, kind of more mystical, even to the point of magical powers, even though you've got to suspend your disbelief. But hell, The Undertaker did it for us for 30 years. We need a kind of character like that that's going to be a bit different. So for me, really, I think the Bray Wyatt character would be good. And I agree with you, strength in numbers. Nikki Cross would be a good idea. I think Killian Dane would fit that role very well. Mojo Rawley, you suggested as well. I mean, could Eric Rowan be thrown back in if maybe he doesn't come back as a package with Daniel Bryan? There is potential ideas that you could do with this Bray Wyatt character. I think the question is, though, which home would you put him in? Is he a Raw guy or would he be a SmackDown guy when it comes back for you?
For me, I think he's going to have to be on Raw because you need to give this gimmick time if it's going to work. I think the fact on SmackDown there's not enough hours for the amount of wrestlers. So the way that when he comes back, he needs to come back at the top really to start. I think the way that you're giving this gimmick time, as such, or the Vignettes time, I think if he doesn't come in and hit the ground running, he'll be lost in the shuffle again, unfortunately, which is what we don't want to see. Bray Wyatt is a capable wrestler. I think he was kind of lost previously before he went off the shelf as such.
Yeah, and I entirely agree with that. And I think almost it's like starting again with the character, the whole build with Bray Wyatt. This could almost be like NXT, like what they're going to do with it. They could bring him back first and maybe bring these characters in one at a time and how they're going to introduce them, how they're going to play out. This really has got a feel of something where it could be new from the start. And I actually really like the idea of it. And hopefully it's going to work out for Bray Wyatt. I would like to see him back in the main event picture. And perhaps with this darker character, it really could be someone that can put him in a good direction. I would like to see it. Looking back then from this week of WWE TV, we look then at the other rosters very quickly. I mean, Pete Dunne didn't arrive like I predicted he would, so it seems that the UK brand is still going to have that same strength. We didn't get the Undisputed Era, which WWE teased that they might come up. But I mean, we look and say 205 Live seems to be the one that got hit the most. With call-ups there. Do you think 205 Live is going to need a couple of, should we say, big names to make that brand have the same strength it had before WrestleMania?
You would hope so. You've lost two of your main stars, so I really hope they do that, even if it is just an hour. I think when you look at the roster, it's very sparse now.
It is. I mean, you look at it, and I mean, I didn't even mention it for the tag team division of Raw before, but the Lucha House Party are part of that. But I mean, you've got them there. I mean, I watched 205 Live earlier today, and it just felt, even though Cedric Alexander was on there, it just felt a bit flat, and it feels like it needs a little bit of something else. The match quality is very good, but for me, the characters aren't that larger than life. It is missing something, that brand. So I would like to see one or two names called up to it, maybe to add something to the 205 Live brand, because it certainly is lacking. But NXT looks to be going from strength to strength as well. Of course, Kushida is part of that brand as well. Are you looking forward to seeing Kushida in WWE?
Yeah, it's got great potential. I really hope it delivers that potential.
Yeah, I do as well. I really do hope so as well. And I suppose with the NXT UK, Pete Dunne is still there. I guess then perhaps we're going to get that rematch with him and Walter down the line.
Yeah, I think that's destined to happen. I think clearly that was one of the highlights of the weekend of WrestleMania with that match. I really like Walter. I think his strong style is very good. I think Pete Dunne, I think it's great. I think this is a program that could get a lot of longevity out of. I think this is only the first chapter.
Certainly, indeed. So, is there any other topics that you would actually like to add before we close off today? I'm just going to quickly check at the news at the same time if there's anything you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, no, it's nothing particular. I think it's great to be back podcasting with you. I think it's been a very interesting week. I think the coming weeks are going to be kind of interesting to see. But no, it's been quite an interesting week. It's great to have this discussion during such a great week for news as such.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, the idea for us, going forward is now to see where this shake-up leads, and hopefully it's going to give us some good programming going forward over the next sort of, the next calendar year in WWE. We're not hoping just in the next few weeks. Hopefully it's going to take us to this new direction. Of course, maybe, the writing and stuff that we had towards the end of last year was kind of lackluster. We had to kind of get through to WrestleMania. We've got a good WrestleMania, so we have to wait and see what goes forward. There is one superstar I want to talk about quickly before we finish, as I'm looking up on the news here, is someone we've not really discussed at all because he didn't move. Is Braun Strowman. Do you think that he is going to be, as successful on Monday Night Raw? Do you think that potentially he has a chance now to go for the championship because he's not got Roman Reigns in the way anymore?
Potentially. I think he needs a heel turn for me. I think the fact that he's done his babyface run, he nearly got the title a lot of times. He needs to go back to being a heel. I think if he does that, this guy's a monster. So I would really like to see him down the line sort of get elevated, because clearly he's got so much potential.
He certainly has indeed. I think he's got a better chance now than what he had before, but it feels like maybe his first feud and this new role will be Samoa Joe. I've just read reports on here that Dave Meltzer is saying that even though it's not been done as of yet, expect it to be announced. We are going to get the idea of Braun Strowman versus Samoa Joe on Monday Night Raw. He's just not been announced yet. So like you said, it is going to happen. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. They apparently as well. I've read one more report here again from Mr. Dave Meltzer regarding Bayley and Sasha Banks, that the whole thing with these guys being very upset with WWE. They found out they were losing the championship, and they found out on WrestleMania Sunday, but they were told that they were splitting up the team as well at the same time.
Yeah. Understandable. It's a lot to take in. Clearly losing the belt obviously must have been kind of traumatic, but the fact they're splitting up, but it's good for both of them. Both of them were good singles wrestlers. So as long as Sasha Banks does come back, which I believe she will come back, it's all okay. But I think a lot of this with wrestlers being unhappy and stuff like that has been brought on by, as we said earlier, AEW. The fact that AEW can now offer these deals to people, it makes you, if you're not happy with what you're getting, kick off. You might get a deal at AEW, which you'll get a payout out of it. It makes sense, really. I think if AEW wasn't there wasn't a competitive option, half these wrestlers would still be there. I don't think we'd have people asking for releases left, right, and centre now.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, that appears to be everything covered then with the Superstars shake-up. You've got the results, you've got our theories on the Superstars and if the moves have been good or bad, and hopefully you guys will agree. And even if you disagree, we'd like to know your feelings. Do get in touch with us here at SCW on our multiple different platforms. Like I say, if you are watching us now, you can visually see us. That means you are watching on youtube.com, SCW The Wrestling Channel. Hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, give us a like, and tell us what you think about the video and your feelings of the Superstar shake-up. As well as that, of course, Facebook, Instagram is SCW The Wrestling Channel. You can go and like and follow those pages now. On Twitter, it's SCW Wrestling Channel. A lot of stuff used with the Twitter page is usually done during live WWE programs, but of course, always can send us a tweet. We don't mind giving you a little response on there as well. If you want to listen to this now in podcast form, then it's Apple Podcasts, we've got Google Podcasts, we've got Spotify, and we've got some other ones as well. So make sure to follow onto those, including Breaker, Stitcher, Pocket Casts. Keep in touch with us here at SCW. We are spreading the word of the channel, and we'd like you guys to help us out and spread it as well for us, please. And we'd be very, very grateful indeed. If you've got any topics you want us to talk about as well in the meantime, for maybe when we're next back on here, drop us a comment, drop us a message. Can be on Facebook, can be on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you want to do it. Leave it in there. I will see it, and I'll make sure it is raised for the next video. We'll even give you a shout out as well. And if you have a YouTube channel, we'll even give that a plug as well. So there we go. Plenty of reasons to get in touch. But that's all from us here at SCW. Georgia, thank you for being a part of the show this week. It's been great to have you on. And we look forward to the next time here on SCW, the Wrestling Channel. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow, spread the word, and take care. Have a good week.